Welcome everybody to the American Association of Colleges of Osteopathic Medicine webinar on the couples match hosted by the Council on Residency Placement. So we'll go around and do brief introductions of all of our panelists tonight, including some members of the Council on Residency Placement and myself. I'm Dr. Waters. I'm the moderator tonight. But I'll let our panelists get started. So Dr. Al-Haj and Dr. Dolbaugh, you could introduce yourselves.
Hey everyone, thank you for being here. I'm Mandy Al-Haj.
Hey, I'm Jim Dolbaugh. Third year resident and here in Cleveland, Ohio.
All right, thank you.
And I'm Jessica Gilsdorf. I'm a fourth year at the Idaho College of Osteopathic Medicine, and we just matched.
Yep, and I'm Rob Gilsdorf, also at Idaho College of Osteopathic Medicine, and I also just matched. Who would have thought?
Congratulations, you two. We're so happy to have you. And then for our non-couples match panelists who are residency advisors and quote-unquote experts in our field, I'll let the corp members introduce themselves.
It's Katie Harden, and I am a residency placement coordinator at Kansas City University.
Hi, my name is Jasri Patel, and I'm Director of Career Development at the Alabama College of Osteopathic Medicine.
I'm Lisa Shelburne, and I'm the Director of Career Services at Lincoln Memorial University DeBus College of Osteopathic Medicine in Harrogate and Knoxville. And if you notice, one of these couples is cheering because they're mine.
All right, thank you so much to everyone who could participate tonight in this webinar. And thank you very much to AACOM for putting this on. Also, a huge thank you to Dr. Al-Haj, whose expertise and in this particular area is going to provide the bulk of this presentation, which we are happy to share with you today. All right, so just we're going to get started with some overview details on the couples match. Don't get overwhelmed because we're going to talk through some real life scenarios as well. So starting off with just kind of the logistics. Katie, I'll let you take it.
Yeah, absolutely. So like Dr. Waters said, our couples are going to go into a lot more of the nitty gritty later. So let's just do a quick high overview of what couples match is. So for individuals that are wanting to couples match, you're going to be applying for programs through ERAS, the Electronic Residency Application Service. ERAS, depends on how you want to call it. And you're going to submit your applications completely separate and individually, but where the coupling comes into play is through NRMP, which is the National Residency Match or Resident Match Program. And so what you'll do is when you are in NRMP, you will have the option to designate that you want to couple, and you will then select the other individual that you're wanting to couple with, and you'll enter their information that's required. And once you do that, then the partner will log into NRMP and they will get a notification that they've been asked to couple and they have to accept it. Once that happens, it's going to link the two of you. And within the system, your rank order lists are now going to be linked together. And then the way the system is going to work is it's going to try to match you into the most preferred pair of programs rather than an individual. You know, it kind of works the same way with the algorithm as if you were an individual, but it's trying to do you together. And our couples have great slides coming up to kind of dive into that to help you visually understand how that algorithm works with your rank order lists as a couple. The biggest question though is, why do you want a couples match? The majority of individuals that want to couples match are trying to match into a specific region or location together. They want to ensure that they are guaranteed to be geographically close to one another. A lot of times they're married or they're engaged or they're in a committed relationship. I actually have two individuals this year that are couples matching, not in any kind of relationship other than they share support resources. And so they're trying to be regionally close together to assist one another. And that's it. And so if you want to go on to the next slide, Dr. Waters. So the matching algorithm is only going to process you as a couple if you designate you're a part of a couple. The algorithm is not going to separate you try to match you individually at all. That's not the way it'll work. Once you designate your couple, your only option is to do your rank order list as couple, and for the algorithm to work is trying to match you in your couple scenario. I will say one of the things I love anytime a student says, hey, I'm considering couples matching, I make them, before I meet with them, I make them watch the NRMP couples match video. It's only like 6 or 7 minutes long. It gives some of the information that you're going to see on the slides later. It goes through the scenarios. It goes through like how the couples match algorithm works and the rank order lists and everything, just in a very great visual way. And it's real short and sweet. So I always make them do that just so they have the base knowledge before that we start talking about the more in-depth stuff about their situation.
A few important details that are left. Each partner in the couple can see the other's rank order list, but they can't modify it. So you actually do, when you enter the NRMP system, you do have to give permission to do the couples match. And then you can see each other's rank order list, but not modify. Couples have the option to do a no match code. So one partner matches while the other would go into SOAP to match. And we will go into more details on that and how that rank order list will actually look, kind of like a mock of a rank order list. And you can uncouple at any time prior to the rank order certification deadline. So we did have a couple this year who did decide to couple late in the process. They did do well with that. But you normally doing it early is better so that you can kind of get your interviews together, but you can couple or uncouple anytime prior to the rank order certification deadline. And that will be announced by the NRMP. And now the important thing, what's it going to cost you? So this is the average fees now. Bear in mind, this could change in the future. So you always want to look at the NRMP website to see what the fees are. So the fees are per partner, but then you start with and it goes to the length of the rank ordered list. So as you start adding more program codes and the supplemental rank order list, it's going to up those costs just a little bit, and the NRMP will be your best source for that for upcoming seasons. These are fees for this season, and it doesn't raise significantly, but it could change.
All right, so at this point, I want to have each of our couples kind of give an overview of their experience in the couples match before we kind of get more into the specific ins and outs and some of the scenarios. So we'll start with Dr. Alhaj and Dr. Dolbo. If you guys could share with us what specialties you applied to, how long your rank order list ended up being, how far down your rank order list was, and where you are now.
All right. So I am in dermatology, so I only applied to dermatology programs and interviewed to some transitional year programs. Jim applied neurology, and he's now in neurology, and we ranked around 86 or 87. We had 87 total ranks, but I had 4 dermatology interviews, and Jim had over 20 or so.
I had 18. I ended up ranking 17 of them.
Mm-hmm. And we ended up getting our number 1, and we are at Case Western University in Cleveland, Ohio.
And you are both third year PGY3s, is that correct?
Yes, PGY3s.
Derm and neuro.
All right. Excellent. Okay, so next will be Jessica and Rob. So very recent results. You guys just matched again. Congratulations. So again, what specialties you applied to, how long down your rank order list, or how long your rank order list was, how far down you ended up, where you ended up. And I know that both of you dual applied. So if you could touch on that a little bit, that would be great. Thanks.
Yeah. So I'm Jessica. I applied pediatrics and psychiatry. Pediatrics was what I preferred specialty-wise, but I did apply to both. I matched at Akron Children's Hospital. And so especially applying pediatrics, we weren't always at the same hospital system because children's hospitals were all on their own. We ended up ranking 99 places to avoid going to the next fee class. And as a whole, I ranked 25 places and I interviewed about close to 40.
I think that was about right. Yeah, but I'm Rob Gilstorf, obviously, and I dual applied also. I did emergency medicine as my primary and my secondary being internal medicine. I matched at Summa Health in Akron, Ohio, so not far from our first two. And it was our number 2 on our rank list.
Well,
So
it was my number 1, but
your
we
number
had to
1,
figure
my
out
number
our
2.
ranks.
So that was pretty good experience. Oh
Yeah.
All right. Congratulations to you guys again. I'm sure the excitement has not worn off yet. All right. So now we're going to go to Dr. Alhaj to talk about kind of the logistics and the things that you want to take into consideration when building your rank order list as a couple.
All right. So main things to think about when you are making your rank order list. First, be honest with yourself about what you actually want and with whoever it is that your couple's matching with. What are your like absolute no's and where you actually want to be? What do you want to prioritize? Does it matter more to you that you're at the same institution? And then does it matter that you're in the same city, state, and so on? For us, it was really important for us to be as close as possible. So we wanted to be at the same institution. So that's how we built our rank. So we wanted to make sure that anywhere we interviewed that was at the same institution was going to have the highest priority and wasn't necessarily our favorite place. For instance, like there were some lower on our list that were at the same institution or in the same city that maybe weren't our favorites, but because they were closer together, we were going to have it higher on our list. So that's kind of how we did it. And then as things got more spaced farther and farther apart, then we would do that. So that's kind of the general thing. If you're dual applying, you can do that same thing. So anywhere you interview and your partner interview, you have every possible combination of those places to make your list, including any transitional or prelim years that you have, including no matches. And we'll get into that at the end. So yeah, we can go on to the next one.
Okay.
So an example scenario. So let's say these are the 3 places I interviewed at, and then these are all the places that Jim interviewed at, and then we can move on to the next. So then how can we picture combining them? So let's say Vanderbilt's the same institution. We're going to put Vanderbilt as number 1. University of Florida, same institution. We're going to put that together. Memorial Hospital is in South Florida, so it's close to University of Florida. It's not necessarily the greatest combination, but it's better than us being super far apart. And UPenn are about the same distance apart from Lehigh Valley. So based on where we would prefer to be. And you would just keep moving down with those combinations until they're the absolute farthest apart from each other, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we really ended up grouping them into, can we live together as one? Can we live within like a 2 to 3 hour weekend drive radius? And then would it be very rare as the third bucket? You know, you get out a few times a year because it's across the United States.
Is it going to be an easy airport flight, or is it going to be a major challenge to fly if it is super far? So lots of things to factor in when you're deciding what should go higher up. And then you get to the end, and this is a very hard conversation to have because it's just going to be a matter of who has a higher likelihood of matching and not matching and prioritizing that person over the other person. So for me, applying dermatology and knowing that invitations for dermatology are going to be much lower than, say, for neurology or family medicine, I have a much lower chance of matching. So if there was any possibility of me matching at any of the places I interviewed at, we prioritized me matching and Jim not matching and soaping
Right.
Because he would have we thought, a higher likelihood of soaping into a program than I would have.
Yeah, there are more SOAP positions theoretically for neurology than there would be dermatology. So my chance of soaping into something near her were higher than her doing the same for me.
And then let's say we went through that list and then I was not going to match no matter what combination we did, I'm not going to match, then it would be me not matching and then Jim matching in his top priority to the bottom. And then deciding how you want to do that, you can choose to do that based on, okay, if the other partner's not going to match, is there a program nearby for them? Can there be a transitional year that they can go to in the meantime while they try and figure things out so that they can apply the following year? Are there research year opportunities for them? Who can you link them up with at your institution? So then you can build it that way as well.
To give an example based off of 19 through 21 here, maybe just 19 through 20. So let's say I'm from Tennessee, and let's say she doesn't match. Well, I would want there because I'm going to be able to get her name out. I have people that I know in Tennessee that can help get the word out about her having a position near there. And so that's why I would rank those higher so that she would have a better chance at matching or soaping in that area.
And then for me, I interviewed at transitional years, but I chose not to rank any transitional or prelim years at the end, because for me and for truly anyone who is going for a subspecialty, it can be a major disservice to you to do a transitional year over doing a research year if you already know your application was lacking research. If it was lacking something, doing a transitional year means you are committing to a full-time job. So how are you going to make yourself better and different if you are doing a full-time job? You're going to have to be building up your resume, finding ways to get research and do things. And it's really, really challenging to do. And now you've taken the opportunity from yourself to do away rotations. So that's just something to think about if you're applying into a really competitive specialty. How are you going to best utilize your year to match into that? If it's a make or break, you're not going to dual apply, you're not going to do something else. That's just something to think about. But Jessica and Rob, if you wanted to add in.
We structured our rank list super similarly. We prioritized being together more than anything else. And so since we both dual applied, we prioritized our top choice specialties, living together. And then we even did our second choice specialty still living together because that was our first priority more than anything else. But of course, like if you're really set on a certain specialty, then maybe ranking those before considering living together would be someone else's priority. The other thing for us is when we did no match, we just went back and forth. We didn't really want to prioritize one person over the other. And really there's no right or wrong way. It's all dependent on what you want to do as a couple. Anything else?
No. I think the ultimate thing is really having that really good and tough discussion. And there's been times you will have fights. You will say, oh, I want to rank this high. I want to rank this higher. And it's a pain in the butt, but ultimately it's going to be a lot of hard work and really saying, what do you prioritize the most when you rank? Do you prioritize specialty? Do you prioritize distance? Do you prioritize, like, is one person going into a really competitive versus a less competitive specialty?
And one more thing that I did, there were some interviews that I got in cities where he didn't get any interviews or vice versa. And so we used those only in the ones with the distance or in the no match section, because it was programs I really liked, but there was no chance of living together, but I still found ways to include them on my list as potentials of places I might end up. So.
All right, thank you. Okay, so let's see, for Jessica and Rob, I'll have you guys continue on with this next section for how to build your rank order list.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So the first thing is you only want to rank programs where you interview. Otherwise, programs will not know who you are. And they're going to be like, why is this person ranking me, or not even know you're doing that at all.
And
so
it's a waste of money.
It really is. And every single program you apply to costs money. So don't rank places you have no chance, like, to get an interview or you haven't gotten an interview. And just be honest while you're ranking. it and say, I really like this place. And Jessica might say, I really liked this place more, than talking about what do you prefer more over the other.
And that was sort of where we were too, with like why he said it's his second choice, but it was my first, because we ranked our first choice as somewhere where it was his first choice rank and really my second choice, but it was the balance of the couples match. And we just sort of talked it through and went through, okay, we'll prioritize this over this. So really just being open and honest with each other, and then putting it on the rank list as is, because ultimately if you want to be there, the algorithm will do what it's going to do, and you probably will end up there if everything is good.
And you really can't trick the system too, as the point states. There might be places you have an amazing audition rotation or an amazing interview, and they say, we really like you, we really want you here. But sometimes, let's say a program in the same system might not like your significant other as much, and then they won't rank them or rank them lower. So then you just get bumped down the list.
I'd like to add that, there are programs, as they just mentioned, that are going to be farther away from where your significant other is more likely, or I guess got their interview. And you might think, oh, I'm going to hold on to that, I'm going to have this resentment or something like that. But just as somebody that's gone through residency, you're really just kind of happy to be around the other person rather than holding on to, that one interview you had that you could have gone to your dream school and wherever, you really don't have that. It's just really nice.
All right, so we'll just go over some of the advantages and disadvantages of the couples match in pretty brief, and give some personal experiences throughout all of this too.
So when it comes to advocating for your partner, we found that to actually be really helpful, and you can do that. We sent emails to, so if I got an interview and he hadn't received something from that institution, I would email my program coordinator and say, hey, I'm couples matching. He hasn't heard. And sometimes it would be literally within an hour he would get an interview invite. Sometimes it'd be a day or two later, but you can really advocate. And I feel like we got a lot of interviews because we spoke up for each other and talked with our program coordinators. But the disadvantage is, yes, sometimes there are cities where, you love a program, you get an interview, but your partner doesn't. And as much as you email your program coordinator and try to advocate, things don't always work out. So that's just sort of a disadvantage of it that you have to deal with and think through and really consider if you're going to do couples match.
And that did happen to us. She ended up getting one at one city, I got one at another city, and we both loved the programs, but then they just didn't give an interview. Anyways, on to another advantage is that your rank list can be really, really long, and you could do this to your advantage. You can list programs multiple times and in multiple combinations. So if you have 3 programs in one city and your significant other has one, you can list all 3 programs with that one for no difference in cost also. And the more matches you can do, the better chance you have of matching, especially if they're all within the same city. However, one disadvantage is that you may not have the specialties of interest at the same city. One of our fairly high ranked programs ended up not having pediatrics there. And that was kind of a bummer for me as for what I wanted during the whole match season. And we ended up ranking it, but we ended up having to list it pretty low on our list, just in the long distance travel section. That goes back to the heavy communication that you have to do together.
So when they say research as many programs as possible, I think that is absolutely key. You have tons of resources out there. Frida and the Residency Explorer tool were really helpful. And we had a shared Excel spreadsheet that we both looked at and put all the information into. And so that's how we were able as a couple to really communicate what programs we thought were working for either one of us for researching.
Yeah, and I really have to stress that Residency Explorer is such an amazing tool. Same with Frida. But the next real strong point is to reach out to your top choices early. And if you get an interview there, great. If you have an audition or are going through VSLO right now and find a program that you really enjoy, reach out to them when you get there and say, hey, I'm super interested in going here and I am couples matching. And during one of my auditions, my program was like, oh, you're couples matching? That's fantastic. Let's work on seeing about looking at an interview. And it does pay off.
And then when it comes to targeting certain programs, looking at similar cities or neighboring cities, I know we matched in Akron, which is right outside of Cleveland, where the other two matched. And it's because there's so many programs in that area. So for couples, it has great potential, and sort of being able to find those spots all across the country. I mean, Chicago, New York, et cetera, et cetera. And you can find all the combinations. And that's really part of the researching, is making sure you can sort of geographically see if that is your priority in this match.
And we do have a variety of resources later on in the presentation that you guys can use. But the really awesome and best thing about Couples Match is once these interviews start getting sent out, and let's say you get an invite at program A, reach out to that program coordinator and say, hey, just got an interview, and my significant other and I are both couples matching. Is it possible to talk to the program, to the pediatric program or radiology program or what have you? And then they will say, hey, we're really excited about this person. Like there's a time at one program we applied to, and hers was just ecstatic about her. And then they reached out to the emergency program that I was interested in, and within an hour I had an interview right off the bat.
And one thing that we did experience when, since we both dual applied, is that when I reached out sometimes, or when he reached out, they would ask, well, what specialty do you want us to reach out to? We're only going to talk to one specialty maybe. So knowing what your partner is really interested in is also important if you dual apply. And it doesn't matter necessarily if you're at the same institution or not. When I've reached out to some program coordinators, we never had an issue with them contacting other programs in the area. It probably is easier if you're within the same institution, but some of my children's hospitals weren't attached to a nearby hospital, such as for his EM or IM programs, and there was no problems.
And in general, you want to reach out to the program coordinator, not the director. I know the other Jim will talk a little bit about that. Memory serves me.
Yeah, I guess I also want to stress what you guys said, that one of the first things that we did was we hopped on a big map, and then we said, look, if we're going to prioritize certain areas, what are the 3 huge areas around the country where we're most likely to do, or what big cities have, 10 of her residencies and 10 of mine. So if we got into one, we could rank just so many, and so that's probably where we started at the very beginning, was with the big map, and what areas do we want to prioritize? What places are going to be more friendly towards us? And I know, just like Rob said, that when I would get an interview, I wouldn't even email the person back. I would call them. And that's what I did. I called them, and just to have that. I mean, email's fine. Maybe they prefer that, but I always like to have that communication with them. They can hear my voice, I can hear theirs, and I would dote on her for a little while, and then they would hopefully do their best to give her an interview, or at least contact those people that would consider that. And it would be to be specific, it is the program coordinator of the residency program, not your program coordinator at your medical school.
All right, so Dr. Patel, if you could kind of go over this one for us.
Yeah, so hopefully if you put in a long ranked list and you've put those no match options, then hopefully both of you will match. And in the unfortunate incident that one of you has to SOAP, or both of you has to SOAP, then you'll have to go through the SOAP process with the NRMP. So if one person in your couple does not match, then that unmatched partner, they can reach out to the NRMP and figure out what city the matched partner matched in. So that will help make an impact in your SOAP process decision-making. But you'll still be able to participate in the SOAP process, and it's still possible to match during that SOAP process, hopefully in a geographic area that is near your partner. If by the end of SOAP, you still have an unmatched position and you're not matched during SOAP, then you can participate in what we unofficially call the scramble process. And during the scramble process, it's a much more laid back process, and it's not, as structured as SOAP is. And so you'll follow that process and hopefully be able to find something near your partner in the couple of weeks before the July 1st beginning of residency. And the NRMP has resources for the SOAP process, and the AACOM also put together a webinar last month to talk about the SOAP process. So be sure to check out those resources because they can provide you with important information on if you're going through that process and what that process consists of.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Patel. I just dropped the link to the webinar that AACOM put on last month about the SOAP process for anybody who's interested in that. And kind of like this panel, we also had guests who shared their experience with the SOAP as well. So there's a lot of real world advice in there. Right. And so in addition to that, we also have some other resources that we've talked about a little bit. So the first one is the webpage for the NRMP, the National Resident Matching Program, about couples in the match. And it talks you through the logistics, again, kind of like what we've done here a little bit as well. But then from kind of the more institutional side, like the NRMP's point, then there's a support guide for being an applicant who's part of a couple, and then the instructions on how to view and certify rank order lists as well. And then Dr. Alhaj, I'll let you talk about the next set of tools.
Sure. So the M-Action tools, what's nice about this is you can kind of play around with how to build a rank list as a couple to kind of see what that would look like. So you can kind of play around with it and practice on that. The med map is nice because you can pull up every program for that specialty and see which areas are dense, where there are multiple neuro and derm for us. So that's where we started. We looked at those maps and then we started prioritizing those when we were applying. The ACGME website is going to be extremely helpful to you, mainly for you to search the programs. So when you go onto the website, you go to the upper right-hand corner and search programs, and you'll find the program coordinator's name, email address, and phone number. That way you can have that on record and ready to go, easily accessible. Frida is really nice because it'll help you search and see what programs look like with their residents, how are they DO friendly, etc. So you can get a lot of data on Frida as well. And I think Jess and Rob.
Yeah, okay. Sorry about that. We got stuck on a Q&A thing. Residency Explorer is absolutely fantastic. That was probably our biggest thing we used, because with that tool, you're able to break down and put in what your stats are. Like, I know that there's a pass fail for the board exams now, so I'm not for level 1 and step 1. So I'm not really sure if they updated that yet. But you can put in your level 2, your number of research, publications, work experiences, volunteer experiences. And you could even break it down by what state you're looking in. So if you see, oh, well, I don't know what's in Columbus, Ohio, we'll say you can search Ohio and then find all the programs in there.
And I liked Frida more, but I think MedMap is one that he really enjoyed as well. I just use Google Maps for every program, and I just measured all the distances that way. But MedMap is one that he did enjoy more than me as well.
All right, and all of those links have also been put in the chat. So for anyone who's kind of early in their planning processes, make sure to save all of those because they will be extremely handy for you in the upcoming years. All right, so now we're going to move on to some questions that were submitted by students who registered and submitted questions in advance. So we'll go through them one at a time and we'll kind of allow the group to sort of answer as you will. So this was a question that came up, and I think some of our CORP members can answer this one. Do programs try to avoid matching couples in the same program at the same specialty?
In my experience, no. I have not seen that people will actively do that. I think it probably depends more so on the size of the class. I personally worked with a couple who couples matched into the same specialty at the same program. So definitely friendly to that. If you think about what programs they want to fill their slots just as much as you want to match. So a couple is going to guarantee that they're going to get 2 spots. So I think it's more of a pro than a con. So I don't think that that's necessarily going to do you harm unless it's like a two-person program.
I've also seen, let's see, in my 12-person residency, the year before me had a couple both in neurology, and they were married before they came, and they matched as a married couple into neurology.
The
or-
smaller programs the really, really small programs sometimes tend to shy away from it, just because the concept is if one of you gets sick or you have illness in your family, or one of you needs vacation to go on vacation, guess what? You're both out. And if for a super small program, that's going to be really hard for them to navigate the last minute call-ins with both of you being out, or needing to coordinate both of you trying to take vacation at the same time. So like they both said, the larger programs, absolutely, they enjoy having both of you. Some of the smaller programs, you're going to see some of them shy away from it just because of the attendance, the challenge that it can present. But
All right, Dr. Patel, did you have input on this?
Yeah, I also caution my students when they're applying at a couple at the same program, often in the same specialty, that they realize that they can't take those vacations together sometimes, and they'll be on call opposite days of each other. So one might have just come off call, the other one might be going on call, and that really doesn't create too much time at home being together. So, if you're able to, be in family medicine or a different specialty in a bigger city where you have more options or aren't at the same program, then you're able to have more free time together when you're not during residency.
Thank you so much. Lots of important things to consider, both about the size of the program and kind of the culture. So moving on, we've talked about this a lot already, but I'm curious to see if there's just kind of like any other additional insight about advocating for your partner for interviews when one has already received an interviews. How appropriate is it? How best to advocate? Ways, maybe we can turn this on its head and say ways that are not appropriate to advocate for your partner, things to avoid. So if any of the panelists have any input on that, it'd be great to hear.
I will say that I had, when I would advocate and I'd call or I'd email, I had her application number and the other information from her handy, because the ones that were interested would specifically ask, and I would always have that handy to give them.
Yeah, in regards for us, we already made our own emails to copy paste, and that already had their AAMC number. They had like what specialty, name, everything. And that really helped with, I feel that would probably really help with like the program coordinators, just to be like, oh, the number's right here, instead of going and searching the name.
And the other thing, since our hospitals weren't always in the same institutions, is sometimes I would look up the program coordinator for whatever program he was in, and I would send their information in my email to like my programs coordinator, just so that they didn't have to go digging for it to contact them. It was easier on them to just send an email or make a phone call. But we did all emails, and I think it was very well received. We never heard back that they didn't want that. Usually they were very happy to know that we were couples matching. And I felt like talking about it even during your interview, just a little bit, don't make it your whole identity in an interview, but definitely mentioning it as a motivating factor for why you do want to be there has been helpful.
Excellent, thank you. Any other input on that one? Looks good. So, oh, Lisa.
Yes, I think one thing that's really important to remember is residency programs want their residents to be happy. So they don't want you to hide your light under a basket. They want to know what's going to make you happy in the program, and working with programs in their cities, in their areas. They do like to network. So I think it's really important to remember that they want you to be happy. So they want to know what it's going to take to make you happy, and giving them that information and being very prepared. Do your homework. Don't just send an email and say, hey, Miss Harden, you know, I've been offered an interview and I'd really like to, you know, get my couples partner an interview, but don't give them the information. Don't make them pull it out of you. So like both of these have said, send them the information, give them all the details so that they don't have to ask any questions. It's easy for them.
Also, if your significant other has rotated there is big, because I know that Mandy rotated, and when I was in my interview, I remember this very specifically. My director said, did she interview here or what? I said, well, actually she rotated here, did an AI here. And and then I had I knew at least 2 of the attendings that she had been with.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely showed up prepared so he would know who to contact.
I made sure to pop by the coordinator's office multiple times during my rotation and let her know.
All right, thank you. So the next question, is this process any different if one partner is an MD or a soon to be graduating MD and one is a soon to be graduating DO? Does anybody have any insight on that? Looks like lots of shakings of head.
It should make no difference. The rank list will be the rank list and the interviews are the interviews. It should make 0 difference.
Of the people that just matched in my PGY1 coming up, we had 3 couples matches out of our 12, and 2 of them were MDDO and 1 was MDMD.
We just had a friend match. One was MD and one was DO.
And they also matched in the same program as well.
So it really wasn't a problem for them at all.
Excellent. So I think this question has actually already been answered quite well, but can you both dual apply as a couple? It sounds like Jessica and Rob had an excellent experience doing that. And then I guess maybe to kind of piggyback off on that then a little bit. So you talked a little bit about how you built your rank order lists in terms of your specialties, but how much would you say you shuffled your rank order lists with different specialties kind of alternating, as opposed to just like, this is my primary specialty versus this is my backup one?
So we sort of split it evenly. So what we would do is we do like an EM, because that was his first choice, with a psych, which was my second choice specialty. And then for the next match, we would do a peds as my first, and then an IM. So we sort of tried to alternate and balance it as much as we could. And we still prioritize, you know, based on location as our first factor, but just went back and forth. So all the EM psych, peds IM before we did any of the IM psych combos lower down on the list.
All right, thank you. So it sounds like neither of these couple, like Jessica and Rob, you only went to 99. Dr. Alhaj and Dr. Dolbao, I think your rank order list was, I think you, if I recall, you said somewhere in the 60s, if approximately. But maybe for our advisors, any comments on the length of the rank order lists? Any comments on how many combinations is enough to hopefully ensure a successful match?
I don't think you need 300. I think the highest I have seen, I actually had a couple this year that had 178, but they had high interview numbers. One was FM, one was IM. He had over 30 interviews in FM and she had over 20 in IM. And so to have that high of a rank, long of a rank order list kind of made sense just because of the volume. Too many interviews in my opinion, but I don't know about any of the other coordinators. I've never heard of a couple having that long of a rank order list of the 300.
I'll say it's going to be a little bit different for us because we were all in person. So it's the amount we could interview at was different.
And there was a comment in the chat about like lower volume of like the lower numbers of people matching as couples match. I think it just was overall the match was lower. all speculation as to why that is. I think it's just a lot easier to apply to as many programs and specialties as you want right now because you're doing everything on Zoom. So I think it's hurting a lot of people. So that I think is playing more into it, more so than couples matching. And we just keep increasing med students and not the right proportion of residency spots, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it is you're seeing that uptick. We're seeing so many more medical schools get approved, but not enough residency slots to align with the number of graduates coming out of medical schools. A lot of the NRMP data hasn't been published yet. And so unfortunately, we don't have a lot of analysis that we're able to do yet to understand what exactly happened with the match this season. So there will be some additional reports that they'll be putting out over the next few months. So we're all interested to see, just to kind of help us get a bearing and understanding of what happened this season, because we had some surprises in our school of those that had to soap and didn't match and such. And even just the number of programs that were unfilled this year were kind of crazy.
I can say this year with the match is the first year in 10 years that at this point in post-SOAP, I've had no one looking for a program. And we have large class this year, our largest class, both campuses. So it was pretty successful for us. Usually at this time, I'm working with, a few people, usually people with risk factors, with board failures. This year, it was not those people. Those people matched pretty easily. And we had people who were looking a little more competitive specialties that it took them a little longer. So it's both sides of the coin each year. You never know how it's going to work out. So you can look at the trends, but you also just kind of have to do the work.
All right, thank you. So, and then there's a question about applying to preliminary years or transitional years. And I think especially in regards to how that works with advanced programs where you have to apply separately to a transitional year, if anyone would care to comment on that.
Yeah, so for a lot of subspecialties in particular, so neurology and dermatology, I think radiology is another one, ophtho, there's a good handful of them where you'll have to do a prelim or TY. The main difference between the two is transitional years, you may have more elective time, so there's more diversity, I believe, in the options as to what you do on your rotations. Applying, I think, is going to be valuable, but you don't need to apply to a bunch of them. I think I only applied to maybe 15 programs just in the cities that I would want to be in the event I didn't match. So, sorry.
I'm just reading.
Oh, so yeah, you would want to do it so that it's a place you would want to be at for that year before you're starting residency. So you can do it anywhere. I think some people think that if you want to match in Hawaii, that you have to do your transitional or prelim there. You can do it anywhere. You can do it at home if you want to spend a year at home with your family. So you can really apply to these intern years however you want. But you don't need to apply to a ton of them. And in the event you didn't match into a prelim or TY, they're much easier to SOAP into, I think, in my experience, than if you've matched into an advanced program. I don't know if you can speak on that for the other panelists.
We really don't know that much about the prelim or transitional years. We didn't do either one of those. I mean, dual applying, we felt like that was enough for us to cover getting more programs to be able to rank. So that's why we didn't consider prelim or transitional years.
Actually, maybe we should define what that is, because I think that was kind of confusing to us when we were applying. So what is an advanced program and a categorical program? A categorical program is going to be a program that when you apply to it, you automatically, if you match there, you're going to match into their intern year. So you don't need to rank an additional prelim or transitional year linked with that program. An advanced program is going to be just that specialty. So if you are doing radiology and you have to do an intern year, you have to apply to separate transitional years, and you will create a separate rank list of transitional and prelim years and link that with that advanced program. So every advanced program will have its own list of transitional and prelim years. So that just adds something extra so that you know what that's really there for. So those are programs you want to apply to if any of your programs are advanced. Okay, I'll stop.
All right, thank you so much. All right, so moving on to the next list of questions. If anyone has any suggestions or comments on what has worked well in the past and what has not worked well, kind of the overall do's and don'ts that they've seen for successful and not successful couples matching.
Yeah, we have a few things. The first one is just be honest with each other. Do not go and say, I'm going to go and apply to top tier programs and you have to do whatever I want, because I'll just make a whole bunch of fights. That's probably the easiest thing, is having that open communication. What's realistic?
And just being able to prioritize together what you need, because if I told him I only want to be at top 10 children's hospitals and that is my top priority, not being with you, then our rank list would look very different versus our priority was being in the same location. So just being able to know what your true priority is.
Also, a spreadsheet is absolutely fantastic for this. Break down your program. Say, hey, here's program A, here's program B, here's program C. How far are they? Where is the city located? And how far is it from the nearest program that your significant other is interested in? That was a huge thing for us.
And for us, we were both on auditions throughout the fall. So we weren't even together in the same city a lot. So having that one sort of document that both of us could share electronically and check when, say, the other one was working or sleeping, it was really helpful to sort of have one common spot for all the information. And that's how we knew to contact each other's programs sometimes, because we had that information in one common spot for each other prepared.
And we would also list the name of the program coordinators in that program for the other individual as well, such as if programs A and B were there, you can list programs A and B's contact information there too.
Yeah, and just having a good time. This shouldn't be overly stressful. It should be a good experience because it ultimately is determining where the future is going to be for both of you. So just keeping that in mind throughout the whole process.
And start early with it too. Like, honestly, start early. There's no time too early. Like when did we start?
This time last year for
us.
us.
Around this time we started researching programs already and getting a big spreadsheet of all the ones that we work for, where are we most competitive at, etc.
I can definitely echo that. I know that when we were apart, it would be really stressful. You would stress, I would stress independently. But when we came back and I don't know if we had it on a whiteboard or I think we had it on an Excel sheet, and we could both sit there and stare at it, and it was in front of us rather than this enigma of puzzle pieces that we thought was going to be there. It made it so much easier. And so putting it in a physical place and down on a piece of paper or in a document will simplify things and make it so less stressful.
All right, so we've heard a little bit about interviewing for transitional years. Just kind of sounds like it goes a lot along with the lines of dual applying versus only single applying, and the options that it gives you in terms of flexibility. I don't know if there was anything else that anyone wanted to add about a transitional or a preliminary year as a backup plan.
I do, because I think I focused a lot on the subspecialties. So if you are applying for like internal medicine or a primary care specialty and you want to do a transitional year, sometimes ranking those transitional years and doing that can actually be to your benefit, especially if they have an internal medicine program there. Oftentimes, I've seen this a couple times where you'll do your transitional year and then they'll say, we really like you. Would you be interested in staying here and finishing your residency here and do internal medicine with us? So that's an option if you are wanting to do IM and you were unable to do to get into an internal medicine program in the SOAP, that's an option for you. Or if you were just nervous about it and didn't want to do the SOAP and you just want to go ahead and do the transitional year, that's totally okay too.
I can agree with that. I know that we have a personal friend who didn't match originally and then went into a transitional year and decided, am I going to go to pathology or am I going to go into internal medicine? He was offered a spot in internal medicine where he did his transitional year. And so then he just got to choose which one he wanted the next year. So I agree. You should consider the places that have that specialty you're looking for right there.
And that also speaks to that research side of things too. So again, looking at transitional years, maybe that have advanced programs that you would be interested in. So, all right. Do couples need more interviews than non-coupled students to match?
So we were worried that we would, and coming from a newer DO school, we were prepared to have problems and more issues during this process than we thought. And ultimately we over applied.
Yeah, we definitely over applied by far. And we both had
we had way too many.
Yeah, we had the high 30s for interviews, and we applied maybe like 100 places. 100 each.
And we should have not done that. And honestly, even with dual applying, looking back, it would have made our lives easier to not dual apply and to have applied a lot less programs, and we still would have had great results. So we did it out of fear, but if you want to do it, it's just going to cost you more money, but I don't think it's necessary.
The main thing is if you are dual applying, you will need more programs to apply to, especially in like high density areas. That's the big takeaway. But if you're single applying, take it with a grain of salt.
We applied to many. I applied to every dermatology program. I interviewed at all the programs I did away rotations at. So it was probably a waste of money to apply to the other programs, but we did it just in case.
I did something similar. Well, first off, I'm very money conscious, so this was a big decision for me, but I figure, we're playing the long game here, we're looking at proposal, marriage, family, etc. So why would I skimp on money now? This is just insurance for the future. And so we both applied to every program. I think there was 152 in neurology at the time. I bit the bullet for like $3,000 or something. And I ended up taking the interviews that had programs that in dermatology near them. And so I guess I didn't do my homework because several of them didn't have dermatology anywhere near them, and I should have never applied to them because that wasn't smart. But if you're at all concerned, I would just apply to as many as you can. Yeah, I'm happy I did, and it was worth the money, just having that insurance.
All right, so it's just about at the end of the hour, so perfect timing. Does anybody have any recommendations for finding programs that are couples match friendly?
Like I said, there's some websites that put it on there. So if you read through a program's websites pretty closely, sometimes they'll have little comments about like, we are couples match friendly, or if you're couples matching, let us know. But I don't think there's any clear source that lists every program that has good couple outcomes.
Ohio, just the whole general state of Ohio is awesome at couples matching.
All right. Well, it's 8 o'clock on the dot. So with that, I want to thank every single one of our panelists, especially our guest panelists, Jessica, Rob, Dr. Alhaj, Dr. Dolbau. This has been a wonderful webinar. So thank you so much for sharing your personal stories, your personal experience, your tips and tricks for the couples match. And thank you so much to our Council on Residency Placement members as well from AACOM, sharing your expertise and your advice with all of our students. Good luck for future couples matches. I hope everyone has a good night. All right. Thank you so much.